All right. Well, that is as it is. So, what is Malcolm Gladwell trying to do here? Let's actually start from a more basic question. What is he talking about?
Yeah, it's maybe like just just like following your own path instead of like copying what other people do just because it works for them. Yeah, like he it's like basically an account of some guy and how he found his own way, like against conventional methods to be successful, pretty much.
Okay. So it's a story about an individual against the pack. Yeah, it is. How does he go about selling us the idea of this individual's individuality?
Like, I think he shows that, like, the way that he makes this guy look so different is that, like, he has an anecdote about this person's, like, meeting with this, like, multi-millionaire, like, billionaire or whatever, and it's like it's, this guy's his idol, that's, like, the Niederhofer guy, and Gladwell would say that, like, most people would, like, strive to be everything like this one guy to, like, earn all the fame and money that this Niederhofer guy has earned for himself, and Gladwell just shows that this other individual is different because he doesn't want to be anything. Well, he wants to be similar, but he wants to, like, use different methods to get there and, like, be completely different from what Niederhofer was.
That's great. So he wants to be different than his idol, and that makes him very much of an individual cast. It's even intensified by the fact that his idol is one in, a million. I mean, he runs the numbers, right? So his idol is already something of a statistical anomaly, an outlier, something too individual to be predicted, right? And he himself is differentiating himself from that, which makes him even more of an individual, right? He's even more of an individual than the individual, right? Does that work? So those are our 3 steps, right? So we say, like, what he's talking about, what he's trying to do with it, and does it work, right? So we're evaluating him on his own terms. So is Taleb an independent thinker?
I don't know if he's independent. He just doesn't. Well, I guess he's independent, but he doesn't like follow the conventional methods. Because like he said, even when he met his hero, he found a principle that his hero followed and doing something in the market that he just didn't agree with. So I mean, to like in this piece, he presents how Niederhofer made his money, and how Taleb thought that he ended up pretty much lucky.
Okay, so go somewhere with that last opposition you were drawing between systematic thinking and sort of the I don't know what you would call it, the vagaries of chance, someone coming out on top simply through.
Like they had the example about the leaves falling from the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a statistical distribution of how like the leaves would arrange on the trees and falls. But if one day like you come back and there's like little clumps instead of like uniform distribution, then that doesn't mean your theory was wrong. Just it was bad or unlucky in that. So that kind of, I guess Niederhofer would defend his position by saying that it was like that. But Taleb would say that you got to take those, like I guess unlucky like bad events into account when you're dealing with the market, and that's what he did. He steered his planning towards the event that the stock market would be damaged, and he made a lot of money from that. So
Great. Stick with the leaves. So stick with the leaves analogy. Like it's a bad or an unlucky event. Yeah, Black Swan has sort of a black swan has has connotations of catastrophe, right? Complete divergence from order. Now, in the leaves being put into piles, that in and of itself, I mean, it's not a disaster for leaves to be in piles, right? It doesn't disprove the theory that nature arranges things with a statistical distribution, right? But it shows that there are ways in which massive outliers can happen, right? And what specifically is that? I mean, it's not just a question of tragedy, right? But what specifically causes things to act in an aberrant manner? Yeah, that's the key one. You're right on. That's the key one. Is human agency, right? Which is unpredictable. We do things that don't make sense. So there's the joke there that nature is in a certain way more rational than humans, right? The leaves are in piles because someone raked the lawn, right? And so that's going to screw up your predictive ability, right? But it's not going to screw up your predictive ability 99 times out of 100, right? Because people are lazy and they don't always rake their lawns, right? But eventually it's going to happen. And when it happens, then everything changes, right? And so the theory is that you want to have some kind of an economic, like if you're going to make money, you want to have some kind of an economic theory that can take into account this irrationality, right? But how do you create a model that predicts the unpredictable? Something that's by definition not predictable.
Well, and like when you manage a stock portfolio, but they always say like you should diversify. So if one thing happens, then the other end of your stocks will have to go up or remain the same. So your losses are more manageable. So in that sense, I guess.
So okay, yeah. So let's take the example of diversification. So that's a good real world example, right? So the upsides of diversification is that if one of the stocks in your portfolio crashes, there's not as much of a chance that everything's going to tank at the exact same moment, right? On the downside, less gain in the event of a dramatic spike in a single stock, right? So if you minimize your risk, you're also minimizing the chances that you're going to make quite a lot, right? But even that sort of presupposes that on the whole, most stocks are going to go up most of the time, right? And so while it mitigates against a certain amount of unpredictability, it still presupposes that the market itself is generally predictable, right? And so what Taleb's theory here is that the market is fundamentally unpredictable. It's just we don't see it all the time, right? Taleb is counting on someone to come and rake the lawn because, well, that's what people do, right? He's counting on someone to freak out and start a massive panic, right? And he makes money because most people don't think that's going to happen. And so the instruments used to make money when something unpredictable happens are hugely undervalued, is his point, right? Which means that he can make a killing if he buys the right thing at the right time. But if he's counting against the stock market going up most of the time, then what does that do to his money making in the short term? Zero or little? Yeah, so he can't. So if everyone else is sort of betting on it slowly going up, and he's betting on it crashing, then when it goes slowly up, he's going to slowly lose money. Yeah, they said it was like 2 p.m. and they've made back 60% of what they lost, right? They've made back 60% of what they laid out that day. That's brutal, right? It's really, really awful. Like, what a hair-pulling strategy.